Hi. So, I wanted to just say a little something about there's been loads of stuff in the press, hasn't there, about Jeremy Kyle's programme ending, and also now people are saying that if Jeremy Kyle has been stopped because somebody committed suicide, then so should Love Island, because in fact there has actually been 2 people commit suicide who have been on that programme. Now, it's a bit controversial what I'm going to say. Some of you won't agree with me, and that's completely okay. I just feel that it's important for me to speak with truth from what I know and what I now see to be true. Because I'm not saying people can't have an opinion. Like, some people won't like Jeremy Kyle and some people won't like Love Island. Doesn't matter. That's not really what this is about. What this is about is the press and the media and lots of people in the public believing that being on a programme is what has caused those people to commit suicide. Now, if that's the way human nature worked, then great, but it isn't. Hi, Eric. Programmes can't make us commit suicide. Because if that was the case and it was Love Island or Jeremy Kyle, then every single person who'd been on those shows would commit suicide. That's not how it works. Now, I know... Hi, Stephen. Good, thank you. Now, I know that some people say, yeah, but, you know, it's the way that they treat them and it's the aftercare and it's this, that and the other and it's lack of this and it's lack of that. Well, actually, everywhere in society, in schools, in doctor surgeries, in communities, everywhere, we could say is lacking in what's potentially needed, because each of us are different and unique and at times need different things because we're experiencing everything through our own thoughts. So the aftercare teams of Jeremy Kyle and Love Island could do 1,000,000 times more than what they've currently done, but it still doesn't mean that there's never a potential that someone would commit suicide. So you could say, well, anybody that's been, you know, if somebody committed suicide and they went to a particular high school, say, oh, well, actually, you know, they spent 7 years, up to 7 years at that high school, you know, is that why? That's, you know, it's the high school that's created that to happen. Now, I get where people are coming from, but part of the reason why I wanted to say this and speak out about this is because it's this very belief that we have of the programme making us do things, or things outside of us making us do things. It's that misunderstanding that is keeping most people stuck. And if we, yes, it might sound controversial what I'm saying, but actually if we understood that more, then rather than looking outwardly, right, let's change the programme, let's cancel the programme, let's, stop those types of programmes, it's not going to stop people killing themselves. Because that is coming from their experience of that, or their experience of life in that moment, which we will never fully know or understand, that is causing that, not the programme. So whilst we're focusing all the energy and all the time on saying how we think certain things should be stopped and ended and cancelled, and why should Love Island go on if Jeremy Kyle isn't, and all of that sort of stuff, just becomes again about people's perceptions of whether they like that programme or not. I mean, I personally enjoyed watching Love Island. I like watching it. I know it's trashy, but it doesn't matter. It just switches my brain off. I quite like it. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea. But actually, you know, it can't be to blame for people's experiences of their life, because that is created through their thinking. And so I get why people believe that the answer is in cancelling these shows and cancelling things. I get that, but it isn't gonna solve the problem. As I say, you know, there's things in schools, in the community, in the doctor surgery that are not as maybe they should be all the time. But we can do the best in the given situation. Now, I'm sure, for example, those programmes now would review how they would work, and okay, that's a good thing, and that will happen over time. But we can only do what we know to do in that moment. But whilst we're so focused on well, this program's been cancelled and why hasn't this one? We're looking in completely the opposite direction of what we should be looking, because that's about blaming things outside of us for somebody ultimately then going and ending their life. And we're missing the point, and we're missing what we need to know in order for people to hopefully not feel so stuck and overwhelmed so that they don't make that decision to end their lives. And to do that, we need to stop looking what's outside of us that is causing this, and actually realise that the more we understand about that we're living our minute by minute experience through our thinking, gives us way more understanding and potential to deal with situations that can take us, that feels like surprise, can be really overwhelming, and any of us are susceptible to that, whether we've been on a TV show or not. You know, something can happen in life unexpected and suddenly we can feel really overwhelmed because of our thoughts about that. And so in a way, the reason I'm saying this, and I know it, like I say, it will be controversial for some people, because they will categorically believe that that program is to blame for those suicides. And the only reason I'm sitting here and saying, you know, putting myself on the line and saying it isn't, is because I want people to understand how this works. And if we can, if we believe that things outside of us can completely dictate our experience, then in a way, what a sad world and place to be in, because shit always happens. It doesn't have to define us, and it doesn't have to be, you know, I know that, you know, situations can be unfortunate and can end up in situations that we don't particularly like or feel comfortable with, but it's learning to deal with that discomfort and making changes according to what feels better for us. But again, it's all created through our thinking. It's all created, our experience of that is through our thinking. Otherwise, we would all have the same outcome given the same situation, and we don't. We have very, very different experiences of the same thing all the time. You know, a really basic example that I give a lot is, you know, I could stand at the end of my street and somebody walk past, and me and my daughter could be stood there and have a quick conversation with someone, and then they walk on, and then I could say, oh, they were really nice, and my daughter might say, oh, I didn't like them, I thought they were strange. Same person, same situation, same conversation, both experienced very differently. Neither one of our experiences is a right or wrong, it's just our experience. And that's a very simple, basic way of saying it, but that's how everything is. Literally everything is experience. We are experiencing our thoughts. And, you know, it's one of those things where the more we see that, when we do have that overwhelm and those shitty thoughts that crop up, we don't have to believe them. We don't have to believe them to be true. But the more that we believe external things are creating our experience and not our thoughts through that, then the harder it is. And the more distressing it can be for people. So, as I say, I get that it's controversial. I get that people have really strong opinions on the fact that these programs made these people commit suicide and therefore should be scrapped, and why is one scrapped and the other one not scrapped. But again, this is all just conversation based around people's perceptions and thoughts and ideas on what they believe these programs to represent or not represent. And all of that fuss and all of that creation and all of that discussion is all in the wrong direction. And actually, the sooner, if we can realise as a society that it isn't the things making us do stuff, it's actually our experience of those things through our thought, then that would prevent people getting to a point where they feel they have no option but to end their lives, because they believe whatever thoughts they're telling themselves, that they're better off somewhere else, that they can't cope anymore. They don't need to believe those thoughts, but for whatever reason they do. And that's the bit that we need to understand, rather than looking externally to see what the problems are and deciding that they're the problem, because God, it gives us no hope, does it, whatsoever, if, you know, things outside of us like that can create such distress in us. But actually, that's not how it works. So, as I say, I know that this will be slightly controversial for some people. You know, I really hope I've said it in as respectful way as I can. If anyone has any questions about it, or anyone really really disbelieves what I say and then struggles with the fact that I've said it, please feel free to message or comment. You know, this is a really important exploration for all of us. And part of the reason why I do these conversations, even though I know I'm kind of putting myself out there a little bit, is because otherwise we don't learn and explore, and we don't, you know, that simple understanding for me of realising that my work couldn't make me feel a certain way, that people around me couldn't make me feel a certain way, that certain things couldn't make me feel a certain way. That was what actually completely freed me from my own internal struggle and distress. Yes, I still get distressed and still struggle when I'm going down a road of anxious thinking and overthinking and starting to believe again to a degree that things outside of me can make me feel a certain way. But actually, for the most part, I see that now the other way, and actually that makes life so much easier. So that's why I'm kind of putting myself out on a limb and saying we can blame the programs, but if we do, we're spending a lot of time and energy looking in the wrong direction for what we really need in order to live calmer and less overwhelming lives. So anyway, I hope that helps somebody, and I'll catch up with you all very soon. Bye.